Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another weekly fragrance rotation, so stay tuned for that. If you like fragrance reviews, cologne comparisons, top 10 lists, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So it's been a little while since I've done one of these videos, and I kind of want to get into a bit of a habit of doing them at least a little more frequently, because I think it is a fun video to do. It's nice to talk about what you wore this week, and of course hear what you guys wore throughout the week as well. So I'm actually going to just jump right into it and start off with the last week. On Saturday I wore Angel Share by Killian. This is one that has definitely grown on me a lot more. I think when I first smelled it, the first time I smelled it, since it did remind me of Ouajan a little bit, I was a little bit disappointed, but it is also so well done, and it is definitely different from Ouajan. They just have a very similar honey apple pie DNA, honey cinnamon kind of, or sweet cinnamon kind of a apple pie DNA. But this one does smell quite distinct, and I like the really boozy quality that this one has in the opening, and it's honestly quite intoxicating for, I would say, for about 5 or 6 hours. I find this one to be very intoxicating. After that, I do sometimes get a little bit of a latex glove vibe. I don't know if that's the praline or something like that that's in this fragrance. That doesn't really work well with my nose, but in all honesty, with how enjoyable it smells for the first 6 hours or so, I don't mind that afterwards it's not that great. If it's bothering me or whatever, I can always wash it off, because I'm not usually going to be out for more than 6 hours. Sometimes I am. But you know what? It does really well. It also performs really well. So very strong projection, very strong sillage. It definitely can start to fill a small room for my experimentation. That's what I found with this one. So I do really enjoy that one. And especially if you want people to smell you through a mask, a couple extra sprays of this one will definitely do that trick. So, next, I hadn't pulled this one out in a little while, and I guess I was feeling that cinnamon vibe, and I went with Side Effect. This is another boozy cinnamon fragrance, but it smells completely different. Actually, it's funny, somebody in the Facebook group earlier was talking about these two fragrances and whether or not you could own them both. And I'll at least say that they are so very different. Yes, they are boozy cinnamon, but this one has this apple pie vibe and definitely very gourmandy, where this one, to me, actually doesn't come off that gourmand. It's also, I think, it can be thought of, at least by some people, a little bit more feminine. I do see why, because it is quite sweet, and I think sweeter than this one. But it has this really beautiful, something about the mixture of the rum and the cinnamon and the vanilla and all those notes makes this sort of spiced orange crush vibe in the opening that really reminds me of drinking spiced rum and orange crush mixed together. Absolutely delicious drink, by the way. So this one smells really good. It does dry down sweet. The tobacco is kind of in the back seat in this one. I mean, if you're really looking for a tobacco fragrance, this is probably, to me, not really one that I would suggest, because everything else in the fragrance, from my nose, definitely stands out a lot more. But it is nonetheless a very well put together, very enjoyable fragrance. Also performs very well, so long lasting, as well as good projection. Now the next one, I'm really happy I've been deciding to give this one a little bit more of a go, and that is Cognac Cafe by Galleria Parfums. So this, as you know probably, was one of the 7 fragrances released by Ash from Gents. And I think in my review, I did like it, but I certainly talked about it a lot with respect to Black Phantom. And while I will say there is definitely an underlying DNA there, which again shouldn't be a surprise because it's the same perfumer, it is definitely quite different. So there is a much stronger coffee vibe. And I think I've also found, as I've worn it more, the sillage. So I mentioned before that there's a bit of a celery note, but I think when you smell the sillage, you don't really pick up that celery vibe as much as when you smell it really close on skin, which makes it much more enjoyable to smell. But this is definitely one that's actually grown on me quite a bit. It's very nice, sweet, a little bit creamy and has quite a bit of coffee. And, you know, with the comparison to Black Phantom, I don't really get a lot of coffee in that fragrance. I mean, there's a little bit of coffee, a little bit of bitterness in it, but it's definitely not the same. And another thing I've noticed with this one that's really nice is in the opening, at least after wearing this more, I find the almond pops a lot more. So I do definitely get a coffee almond vibe in the opening, which is really nice. And I mean, again, with the comparison to Black Phantom, because I know a lot of people do compare it, and I know there are similarities, I find that the almond's a lot more bitter, whereas this has a bit of a sweet almond. So I do actually really like this one. I mean, if you like Black Phantom, you should give it a try. It will probably at least remind you of it a little bit. It is in the same vein, but it definitely does its own thing. And so far, anyways, I'm still testing the rest of the collection. I have samples. This is definitely my favorite one. But I am going to give each of them a few solid wears, a few solid test days to, you know, really get a feel for them and get an idea. I think the other bottle that I bought by the Yuzu Grove, it's definitely going to be spring or summer before I start wearing it again, because that's where I think it'll shine. I do like it, but we'll see if I end up liking it more, as this one has definitely grown on me. Now, I did get something in the mail, and that something was Single Malt by Killian. This has been one I've wanted to get for a long time, and I finally decided to go ahead and purchase it, and it arrived, and so it became my scent of the day the very next day. And of course, that was a great day. And I love this one because it's such a nice, it's plum, it's boozy, reminds me a lot of a rye whiskey, which I love rye whiskey, especially compared to Scotch. And it also has a slightly woody accord. I find the woodiness is definitely toned back. If you want something that's boozy and more woody, I definitely recommend the original Straight to Heaven over this one. This one is definitely more boozy, sweet, plum-like, has a little bit of a fruity vibe in the dry down. Then more so than it is woody, but there is still a little bit of that woody base in there, which gives it some character, gives it some quality, and also gives it some longevity. The longevity on this one is quite good. This is one also that it performs, but not overly so. So I decided to go when I wore this 4 sprays. I was in the car with someone who typically does not like fragrance that much. And not only did they not complain, they said it was the perfect degree to which it was radiating, or sillage. So that was a very confined space, and it's one that more... the vibe I get with this one, and this is definitely what I've gotten from wearing it, the impression I've got, is that you get whiffs of it. And in a lot of ways, that's the kind of fragrance that I also like. I want people to smell it, but when it's all they can smell every breath, to me that's too much. I mean, sometimes, like if you're in a club or something, there's definitely times for being that strong, or maybe you're in a mood, but for a lot of fragrances, and for the quote-unquote gentleman fragrance, I think that is the perfect degree of sillage, where they get the occasional whiff, and it smells nice, it smells intriguing. But I definitely think you can go a little bit more, or a few more sprays on this one, because it's definitely not super beast. I don't think it's as strong as a performer, at least with projection, as Angel Share, but it is still one that's really, really good. Next one on the list, next day of the week, I wore none other than Tom Ford's Ombre Leather. Still, I think this is the best entry-level leather fragrance. If you haven't really gotten your nose on or tried any leather-dominant fragrances, and you want to sort of an easy transition into that, this is probably the easiest wear. It's a very nice suede-like leather with a nice touch of sweetness. I mean, some people say it's a bit of a toned-down Tuscan leather. And certainly in some regards, I think that's what it is. It definitely doesn't have as in-your-face leather. It also has a much more mass-appealing kind of leather with that suede vibe, instead of that really rough, smelling like a brick kind of leather that Tom Ford Tuscan leather does have. But this is a really great one. Performance is pretty good. I'd say around 8 hours max. That is pushing it. It's not a crazy performer. So in that 6 to 8 hours, it is also a little bit lighter, so I think you can definitely go a few more sprays on this one too. That's from my personal experience. But it's also a really, really great fragrance. Now next, you know, I guess I'm boring, or maybe I had just gotten the fragrance, so I loved it. I wore Single Malt again. Not going to run you through the details of that one. a second time. But again, it is a great fragrance if you get the chance. If you like boozy fragrances, get a sample of this one. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. My scent of the day today is none other than Italica. So, you know, a lot of people talk about this as like a special day fragrance, and I see how this could easily be something you wear for a classy event because it is very rich and elegant. But I like to wear it anyways, as it were, because otherwise I will have this almost forever, and especially during these days, who knows when the next time there's going to be a nice formal event to go to. But this one is actually just really, really well done. A beautiful gourmand. Some people say it's the best gourmand of all time. You know, I'm on the fence about that. It's definitely, I think, in my personal opinion, in contention for that position. And of course, I'm a little bit fickle, so that position, the winner of that position, will change quite frequently. But this one, very, very nice. I get this really nice dry almond biscuit with a bit of a strawberry touch in the opening, which dries down into a really, really nice, milky, creamy almond vibe that's just very, very enjoyable. So this one, hard to get as it is a Harvey Nichols exclusive. I was fortunate enough that Xerjoff Universe did temporarily release it online on their website for a short, limited run. And I did pick it up. What I found even more shocking was that the price point for the website when they were charging it, when they were selling it, was cheaper than Harvey Nichols. So I actually paid less than retail on this one. So very happy to get this one. Beautiful bottle, very nice and soft. But guys, that was my rotation for the week. Let me know in a comment down below, what did you wear this week? What was your favorite fragrance from the week? Let me know. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.